The European Commission has unveiled Democracy Shield, a roadmap to better protect democracies from foreign interference.
UK Health Secretary Wes Streeting has denied rumours that he's plotting to oust embattled Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
Russia continues to launch airstrikes at Ukraine while its troops further infiltrate Ukrainian positions in Zaporizhia.
The European Commission has unveiled Democracy Shield on Wednesday, a roadmap to better protect democracies and electoral processes from foreign interference and information manipulation, including those originating from within the bloc itself. The Commission has explicitly and pointedly included EU candidate countries in this defensive plan.
In the communication on the EU strategy.
At the core of the Democracy Shield is reinforcing public trust in democracy and democratic institutions. The European Democracy Shield rests on 3 pillars. First, safeguarding our information space. Second, strengthening democratic institutions. And third, boosting our societal resilience.
The centerpiece of Democracy Shield is the creation of a European Centre for Democratic Resilience to identify destabilization operations and coordinate the work of fact-checking networks. The Commission also proposed setting up a voluntary network of influencers to hold accountable those influencers who are taking part in political campaigns. For Nathalie Loiseau, French MEP and head of the Democracy Shield Committee, the Commission must first apply the rules it adopted to regulate its online sphere.
Ce qui se passe aujourd'hui, c'est bien sûr des ingérences russes massives. C'est aussi le comportement de plateformes comme TikTok, sur lesquelles il y a beaucoup de questions qui sont posées, mais c'est encore plus la collusion entre l'administration américaine et les plateformes américaines. Et là-dessus, on a l'impression qu'Ursula von der Leyen a du mal à passer le cap. Elle nous dit, elle écrit qu'elle va mettre en œuvre les législations qu'on a votées. J'allais vous dire encore heureux.
Several rules aimed at protecting electoral processes have already been adopted, for example in the Digital Services Act and the AI Act. Yet under pressure from US tech giants backed by the Trump administration, Commission sanctions have yet to materialize.
Lawmakers in France's lower house of parliament, the National Assembly, approved a measure on Wednesday to suspend a controversial pension reform. The vote, which passed with 255 in favor and 146 against, followed a major concession by the country's new prime minister, Sébastien Lecornu, to the Socialist Party to avoid censure. One of the biggest was offering them a suspension of President Emmanuel Macron's plan to raise retirement age from 62 to 64. Budget debates in France have recently gained significance since Macron's snap election last year resulted in a hung parliament. Earlier this year, lawmakers voted to remove Prime Minister François Bayrou after he called an unprecedented confidence vote over his controversial 2026 budget plan. France, which has had 5 premiers in just 2 years, is continuing to struggle to rein in a budget deficit, which has become the largest in the Eurozone. The country's public deficit hit 5.8% of GDP in 2024, totaling 168.6 billion euros, a figure well above the maximum allowed by EU rules. UK Health Secretary Wes Streeting has denied allegations that he's plotting to take down Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The senior British cabinet minister described the rumours from inside number 10 Downing Street as, quote, self-defeating and self-destructive. Close supporters of Starmer in briefings to the media said that challenging the UK premier would be reckless and have dire consequences for the country's economy and international standing. Streeting, who's widely tipped as a future Labour Party leader, said that Starmer should fire those responsible for the remarks.
It's totally self-defeating briefing, not least because it's not true. And I don't understand how anyone thinks it's helpful to the Prime Minister either to suggest he's fighting for his job at a time when, last time I saw him on Monday evening to talk about violence against women and girls and how we tackle it, he's fighting for the country and trying to turn it around from the absolute mess that we inherited.
Starmer has been struggling since taking office in July last year, with his public opinion dwindling week on week amid the rise in far-right anti-immigration Reform UK's popularity. Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, has consistently topped British polls for months, creating a difficult situation for Starmer, who's been unable to deliver on his campaign objectives. One of his flagship promises included economic growth. Recent statistics, released on Tuesday, showed unemployment figures climbing from 4.8% to 5%.
Thousands of union members protested again in front of the government building in Bucharest and then marched to the parliament. They are dissatisfied with the austerity measures and demand, among other things, an increase in the minimum wage as well as a reform regarding labour taxation. With flags, banners and drums, approximately 2,000 union members from the health, transport and communication sectors voiced their discontent, most of it related to wages.
Primul lucru pe care dumneavoastră ați vrea să-l schimbe guvernul. Demisia, domnule! Nu sunt în stare de nimic!
The protesters demonstrated in front of the government building for about 2 hours. They then marched to the Parliament Palace. Officially, representatives of the National Trade Union bloc sent to the government leaders a long list of demands, including labour tax reform and measures to combat tax evasion. After the protest, union officials announced that they had received invitations to talks from the governing parties.
Moscow continues to launch airstrikes at Ukraine while Russian troops further infiltrate Ukrainian positions in Zaporizhia. Overnight into Wednesday, Russian drone strikes struck the central Kharkiv region, injuring at least 5 people.
Було влучання в промислове підприємство, жодним чином не стосовується близького підприємства. Крім цього, постраждало 20 житлових будинків. Це 5 приватних житлових будинків і 15 багатоповерхових.
The attack comes as the Russian army overran 3 settlements in the southern Zaporizhia region of Ukraine, where dense fog enabled Russian troops to infiltrate Ukrainian positions. The cities of Kupiansk and Liman in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region have also recently witnessed an uptick in combat. However, the fiercest battles are still in the besieged Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk in the eastern Donetsk region. Here, close to half of all frontline clashes took place over the past 24 hours.
The United Nations said on Tuesday that sustainable cooling must be treated as essential infrastructure to cut greenhouse gas emissions, save lives and reduce costs, as it launched a report at the COP30 climate talks. With typhoons tearing across Southeast Asia and areas of Jamaica and Brazil still clearing debris from damaging storms, UN officials called for energy-efficient solutions that lower the carbon footprint of cooling.
We can't air condition our way out of this heat crisis. We have to, if we do that, then we will just drive up greenhouse gases, raise costs, cause grid overload, and essentially peak demand. Instead, we have to think about smart buildings, affordable cooling, ambient infrastructure, integrating the environment into the urban setting while cutting energy sectors and the carbon footprint of the cooling itself.
Meanwhile, protesters carrying signs reading "Our forests are not for sale" broke through security lines of the COP30 climate talks on Tuesday night. It is the first time the climate conference is being held in Brazil, with delegates from almost 200 countries attending the talks, taking place in Belém on the edge of the Amazon rainforest.
Canada is hosting the G7 foreign ministers for talks on defense spending, trade, and uncertainty over U.S. President Donald Trump's ceasefire plan in Gaza and efforts to end the war in Ukraine. Attendees include EU Foreign Chief Kaja Kallas, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and the foreign ministers of Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan. Canada's G7 hosting duties this year have been marked by strained relations with its North American neighbor, predominantly over Trump's imposition of tariffs. But the entire bloc of allies is confronting major turbulence over Trump's demands on trade and various proposals to halt worldwide conflicts. On the war in Ukraine, most G7 members have taken a tougher line on Russia than Trump has. Another main point of contention has been defense spending, as Trump has demanded that NATO partners spend 5% of their annual gross domestic product on defense. While a number of countries have agreed, others have not. Among the G7 NATO members, Canada and Italy are furthest from that goal.
Spain, Italy, Greece and Cyprus have been considered under migratory pressure by the European Commission. This means these countries faced a disproportionate level of migrant arrivals last year, including those rescued at sea. The 4 countries will therefore receive support from other EU member states as part of a solidarity mechanism proposed by the Commission. Each member state, except for those under migratory pressure, has to contribute in proportion to its population and total GDP. Member states can then choose out of 3 options. They can relocate a certain number of asylum seekers to their own territory, pay €20,000 per person they do not relocate, or finance operational support. However, some countries are still opposing the solidarity pool. Hungary, Poland and Slovakia stated they do not want to contribute either financially or by accepting migrants from other countries. Member states can apply for an exemption, but this can only be done by countries considered to be facing a significant migratory situation.